They say that love makes you brave, but for someone like me, a guy who spent his entire high school life blending into the background, bravery feels like an impossible dream. I've always been just there, unnoticed, until the day I slipped a tiny note under her lunch tray. Kim Ji-eun, the girl who lights up every room she walks into, didn't know I existed. But that was about to change. What started as a harmless, anonymous message quickly spiraled into something much bigger, something I could never have imagined. Little did I know, a single note would turn my quiet world upside down. Chapter 1. When you're invisible, the world becomes a quieter place. For as long as I can remember, I've always been one of those people who blend into the background, as if I were a part of the school walls themselves. It's not that anyone disliked me, far from it, but I wasn't exactly memorable either. That's how it's always been for me, Han Min-jun, your average 17-year-old high school student, but with one slight difference. I have a massive, impossible crush on Kim Ji-eun, the girl whose every bit is out of my league as she is beautiful. She's not just beautiful in the conventional sense either. Ji-eun's beauty isn't about makeup or perfect hair. She has this way about her, an air of kindness, an unintentional elegance that makes you want to be a better person just by being in her orbit. But there's a small problem. She doesn't even know I exist. That's fine. I've gotten used to it by now, the whole existing in the shadows thing. And, honestly, the fact that she doesn't know I exist has probably saved me from humiliating myself countless times. I'm not popular, not athletic, not the class clown. Just me, Min-jun, the guy who works part-time in the school cafeteria serving lunch and washing dishes, the guy who blends into the background so well you'd probably forget I was there even if you were looking right at me. But I don't mind. Because, even if she doesn't know I exist, I can still see her every day, smile from afar, and appreciate the little things. The way she scrunches her nose when she's thinking too hard, the soft laugh she has when her friends crack a joke. That's enough for me. Or at least, I thought it was. Until, one day, I found myself standing behind the counter, staring at her lunch tray, an idea forming in my head that I never could have expected. Chapter 2. It all started with something small. Just a scrap of paper, torn from the edge of my notebook, no bigger than a receipt. I had written it absent-mindedly during history class after watching Ji-eun across the room as she tied her hair into a neat ponytail. Your smile brightens the whole room. Simple, innocent, harmless. But the moment I held it in my hands, reality hit me. There was no way I could ever actually give this to her. What was I even thinking? Ji-eun probably got compliments all the time from guys far better looking, more confident than I'd ever be. Why would she even care about a note from me? Still, something about that little scrap of paper tugged at me. It felt unfinished, like a story that needed its next chapter. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but as I stood in the cafeteria, watching the line of students shuffle forward, I tucked the note under a sandwich on her tray. My heart raced as I handed it to her, careful to avoid any eye contact. She didn't notice, or at least, not right away. I kept glancing up from my spot behind the counter, watching her from the corner of my eye. Ji-eun sat at her usual table with her friends, laughing and chatting as if everything was normal. And for a second, I thought she might just throw the sandwich away, the note never even discovered. But then, she unwrapped it. Her hand froze when she saw the note, her eyes scanning the words. For a second, I thought my heart might stop. And then, she smiled. A real smile, the kind I had only ever seen when she was laughing with her closest friends. It wasn't for anyone else, it wasn't forced. It was genuine. And for the first time, that smile was because of me. She didn't look around to see who had left it. She just folded the note carefully and slipped it into her pocket before going back to her lunch as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Chapter 3. The next few days, I was a nervous wreck. I kept expecting her to figure out who had written the note, to corner me in the hallway and ask if it was me. Of course, that never happened. Ji-eun was smart, but there was no reason for her to suspect me. I'd gone out of my way to be invisible, after all. Still, every time she came through the cafeteria line, I felt my heart pound, my palms sweat. I tried not to stare, but it was impossible. I found myself memorizing the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, or the way her laughter lit up the room like sunlight. And then, on the third day, I did it again. I slipped another note under her tray, this time a little bolder. You're like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. Again, she found the note. And again, she smiled, tucking it away in her pocket like a secret between us. Even though she didn't know who us was, it became a ritual after that. Every few days, I'd write her a new note, something small and sweet, and hide it beneath her lunch. I don't know why, but it felt like my way of telling her how I felt without the risk of rejection. Each time, she would read the note, smile, and tuck it away. And that smile, that simple little smile, became the highlight of my entire day. Chapter 4. I didn't realize how much my feelings had grown until the day I almost got caught. It was a Friday, and the cafeteria was busier than usual. I had been running behind on orders, stressed out from the lunch rush, and distracted. Ji-yoon was in line as usual, laughing with her friends. I had the note ready in my pocket, a short but heartfelt message. I wish I had the courage to tell you how amazing you are. But as she got closer to the counter, my hands fumbled. In my hurry, I dropped the note before I could slip it under her tray, and it fluttered to the floor right in front of her. Panic shot through me like lightning. I froze, my mind racing as Ji-yoon bent down to pick it up. Is this yours? She asked, holding the note between her fingers, her eyes locking onto mine for the first time in what felt like forever. My mouth went dry, and all I could do was shake my head, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. She stared at me for a moment longer, as if trying to figure out if I was lying, but then shrugged and slipped the note into her pocket. That was too close. I spent the rest of the day replaying the moment in my head, my nerves frazzled, wondering if she suspected anything. But Monday came and went, and nothing changed. She still smiled when she found my notes, still tucked them away like little treasures. And I kept writing them, day after day, week after week. Chapter 5. As the weeks went by, I noticed something different about Ji-yoon. She started spending more time in the cafeteria, even when she wasn't eating. Sometimes she'd sit at a table alone, her eyes scanning the room as if she was searching for something, or someone. I couldn't help but wonder if she was trying to figure out who her mystery admirer was. Part of me was thrilled by the idea, but another part of me was terrified. What if she found out it was me? What if she was disappointed? Still, I couldn't stop myself. The notes became more personal, more daring. Every time I see you, my heart skips a beat. I wonder if you even know how special you are. I wish I could be the one to make you smile every day. Each time she found a note, her smile grew a little softer, a little more thoughtful. And I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, she liked her secret admirer too. Chapter 6. The notes had become my way of feeling closer to Ji-yoon, but there was only so much I could say on a scrap of paper. I needed to take things a step further. But how? I couldn't just confess. That would be social suicide. Ji-yoon was popular, admired by everyone. And me? I was just the guy who served lunch. But then, one afternoon, as I was wiping down tables after the lunch rush, an idea hit me. What if I planned something special, something more than just a note? Something that would show her how much she meant to me without giving away my identity. At least, not right away. A secret date. It sounded crazy, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I could leave her a note with instructions, tell her to meet me somewhere, but not reveal who I was until the right moment. That way, if she didn't show up, or if she wasn't interested, I could back out without embarrassing myself. It was perfect. Chapter 7. The next day, I slipped the note under her tray like usual, but this one was different. Instead of a compliment, it was an invitation. Meet me at the old cherry blossom tree after school tomorrow. I'll be waiting. My heart raced as I handed her the tray, and for the rest of the day, I couldn't concentrate on anything else. What if she didn't come? What if she did? The hours ticked by slowly, each one feeling like an eternity. And finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the school bell rang. It was time. I made my way to the cherry blossom tree, a quiet spot behind the school where students rarely went. The blossoms had started to fall, scattering pink petals across the ground like snow. I stood there, my hands shaking, waiting. Minutes passed, and with each one, my hope dwindled. Maybe she wasn't coming after all. But then, I heard footsteps. Chapter 8. Ji-yoon stood at the edge of the clearing, her eyes wide with surprise. She looked around, clearly expecting to see someone else. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice hesitant. I stepped out from behind the tree, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. No more hiding. No more notes. It was time to tell her the truth. Her eyes widened when she saw me, and for a moment, she just stared, as if trying to process what was happening. "Min-jun?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Yeah, it's me." For a second, I thought she might laugh, or worse, walk away. But instead, she just smiled, that soft, genuine smile that I had fallen in love with months ago. "I had a feeling it was you," she said quietly, stepping closer. "But I wasn't sure." My heart soared. You knew?" She nodded, her cheeks turning a light shade of pink. "I mean, I wasn't completely sure, but I hoped it was you." I blinked, not sure I had heard her right. "You hoped it was me?" She smiled again, that same beautiful smile that had made me fall for her in the first place. "Yeah, I did. The notes, they were sweet. And I started to notice how you always looked at me, how you were always there, quietly in the background. I guess I started to like that about you." Chapter 9. The cherry blossoms fluttered down around us like confetti as we stood there, awkward and unsure, but smiling. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't invisible anymore. June knew who I was. She had known all along, and she didn't mind. In fact, she liked it. We sat down beneath the cherry blossom tree, and for the first time, we talked. Not as the shy cafeteria worker and the popular girl, but as Min-jun and Ji-yoon, two people who had found something special in each other. And as the sun set behind us, casting a warm golden glow over the school grounds, I realized that my story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Epilogue. Weeks passed and things changed, but in the best way possible. Ji-yoon and I started spending more time together, talking, laughing, and slowly getting to know each other outside of the notes. We kept our relationship quiet at first, not wanting to draw too much attention. But eventually, people started to notice, and surprisingly, no one seemed to mind. And one day, as we sat together in the cafeteria, sharing a plate of fries, I slipped her one last note. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." She read it, smiled, and this time, instead of tucking it away in her pocket, she leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. "I could say the same to you," she whispered. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had finally stepped out of the shadows and into the light.